Setting up a little bit, man. That's good. Thank you. All right, guys. We're live here. We're just going to wait for a couple of people just to jump in. Priscilla, you live. You can hear Priscilla? What part?
On the west side.
What's up? What's up? What's up? So I'm going to refresh here. See if we can get in.
Yep, I see you.
You hear me?
See you over here.
Okay. You can hear me there?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to minimize mine just to see if, and then you narrate, see if there's anybody, any comments or anything.
Serious people have mine.
We do.
John Suarez, Rachel Rios. How are y'all? God bless you. Thank you for joining us.
All right, guys, good morning. Or I'm so used to what we do in the morning. We do a podcast in the morning, right? So sorry about that. Good morning. All right, guys, good afternoon. It's Monday, and this is Prison Talk. So I have a special guest with me. Not only guys go to prison, not only guys have a rough life. Women also have a rough life. They go through things just like men. They go through a lot of things. So today, my special guest is Priscilla Aguilar. Aguilar, okay. So I'm just going to ask her some basic questions. We're going to talk a little bit, and then I'm just going to let her give her testimony. So is that cool?
Yes.
All right. So normally, what I do is I'll ask people what kind of childhood they had.
Mm.
The reason why I do that, I know there's some type of connection there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that if they were into heavy drugs, their dad might have been, or the mom into heavy drugs, or if they were alcoholics, they become alcoholics, or they went to prison because their dad went to prison. So there's always, I want to say about 75%, maybe even more. When I was in prison, the guys that were in prison there, their parents had been in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy how it just, it's a generation. It's a cycle, right? And one of them has to break that cycle. If not, the next generation goes to prison. I think on one of the podcasts, I was talking about being in prison with 3 generations. I was in there with a grandpa, and about a year later, his son showed up. Right, I was getting ready to leave on my 5th year. The grandson showed up. Yeah, it was crazy. You had the grandpa, the dad, and the grandson. I was like, man, that's crazy. I don't know if the grandson had any kids or anything. I mean, he was like 23, 24 years old. So I'm sure he had kids out there, But it's something where it's like a generational curse, right? It's just a cycle. It's habits, what they see the dad. And, believe it or not, whatever we do, our kids see it.
Yeah.
You have kids?
I have to.
See? Are you more protective with them than they were with you?
Yes,
Why?
a lot more protective.
Why?
A lot more protective.
Why?
Because I don't. Well, first, I don't understand. I don't know how I would react if something happened to my kids. I can handle a lot, but when it comes to my kids, like I cannot. But I would hope to avoid them having to go through anything that I went through.
Whatever you went through, right?
Anything, yes. I don't want them to feel loved by their parents, or like they can't talk to us, like they can't trust when something happens, that they can't come and tell us or ask us, even if it's something wrong, like.
Why are we like that in our generation? Our pops and our mom and pops weren't like that. Was your parents like that?
No. I felt like I loved all the time. I was always like, oh, you're never going to be anybody. And I've never spoken anything like that to my kids, because you say that to a child and that's what they believe, You're
planting that seed of rejection, that seed of failure. They can't do anything. They won't amount to anything. They'll never be nobody. They'll never be successful. Now they're kids. Now they're battling or they're fighting an uphill because right off the rip they're going to have to perform. Now they want to perform for us. That in my case was the same thing. My dad, he was like that. Very. I think when I think now, I think he did it in a way to make us rough or tough. I want to give him a little credit here. I want to give him a little credit. But I think he did that because he wanted us to be men. If something were to happen to him, we had to grow up and be men.
Yeah, and it's different in Mexican families. I think men are supposed to be like no emotion, don't cry. This is what it is. You just keep going, and that's really not good. Like I don't teach my boy that now. It's like if you need to cry, you cry. Like it's okay if you're sad,
I'm a
if
cry
you're angry. Well, yeah, a lot of back. I mean, I guess it's still now. I don't know about other, but I notice a lot of Mexican men. It's like you're not supposed to show emotion, and that's horrible.
That's what's this. Look, that's a society has told us that you're the man, good head macho. You're the man. You're the breadwinner. You're the boss. You're the head. That's what society has told us, that we are the man of the house, and a lot of times, men commit suicide. One is that they can't deal. A lot of times, men commit suicide because they can't deal with what they're going through, and not being able to talk, or they're embarrassed. A lot of times, I think that women. I think the men won't go to the woman because he's afraid she'll think he's weak. Mm-hmm. But you're the man here. How are you going to be weaker than me, and I'm going to be stronger than you? Yeah. Just look at when a man goes to prison. What happens? There's a lot of times a woman steps up. You know what I mean? They step up and they become this super mom, and so I see that a lot. But I mean, society has told us don't tell anybody your emotions, don't cry, stay strong, get their feet in me, and the thing is that, I mean, that's
can be overwhelming.
Overwhelming, yeah. And that's why you have a lot of suicides with men. So how was your upbringing with your? Did you get along more with your mom or your dad?
I didn't get along with my mom. But I guess I didn't really see my dad much either, but I was always more attached to my dad. Like I would want to be with my dad, and my mom would let me.
You're a daddy's girl? Always, yeah.
So I would run away to be with my dad, and in the process of me running away, things would happen. The drugs happened, the fighting, joining the gang, being, sexually assaulted, just all kinds of stuff happened in the process, and I just got lost and just stayed in the streets. I didn't even want to be home, and I never really got to my dad. He was a drug dealer, so he was always gone or in jail or prison or somewhere. I just didn't know where, but I kept on, running away.
Do you have a relationship with him right now?
Not well. He passed away 3 years ago from cancer, and I think we both got out of prison at about the same time. He got out of prison from Mexico, and I got out of prison here, like within a month of each other. From then on, we started building our relationship. Cool. So I was with them until the end.
How much time did you do in Mexico? Because that's hard time. I know a guy 15 years. I know a guy that just came out of Mexico, and he's a youngster too. He's probably in his 40s, but he looks tore up.
My dad had a lot of health problems when he got here from Mexico. A lot of stories.
Well, they need no medical. When I was sick and when I got there to prison, they found out I had cirrhosis, and then I had early stages of liver failure, cirrhosis. So, they were able to cure me, with the medicine and everything. But when you're in Mexico, you don't get into that. You just ride it out, man. You either ride or die.
Yeah, you don't have family, you don't get food, you eat what they give you. My dad said a lot of it was moldy, or you'd find roaches in it, but people still ate it because they didn't have family or money. Yeah.
Yeah, and this guy was telling me that his brother, it's crazy because he was telling me that his brother and his sister, younger siblings, right? They moved to Laredo. Mm. And I was like, okay. So that way they can go take him meals.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, they come to, is it true or not? They come to the gate and they give them meals? How's that?
Yeah. I don't know. My dad had it like that. I mean, my family didn't move there, but he had
family.
He had workers. Yeah. My dad would make, he had a shop and he would make ceramics, and they would the cartel had him making ceramics.
Sure, so they can stuff
so they
everything.
could do it. And my dad was well known there with a lot of the main people in Mexico. And so he would do that. But he had workers on the outside that would come in and bring food and supplies, and he would give them the money, and they would come in, or my grandparents would drive out there and take him whatever he needed.
So he had a little hustle going on.
He had a
I mean,
hustle going on.
You know, I don't know about you. I know you were in prison, but to be in prison, to make it in prison, you got to have a little hustle.
Yeah, if you want to do anything.
You know, I knew guys that would wash clothes.
Yeah.
You know, they would wash clothes, iron your clothes.
I was doing all of that.
Wash your bed sheets, mop your room, sweep and mop your room every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Taking bleach from the kitchen and
taking bleach from the kitchen. Cheese and taking vegetables and fish and meat, so you could do. Y'all did any spreads out there? Mm-hmm. Have you made a spread since you've been back?
I have.
Yeah.
My husband's like, you're not tired of that? Or the other day, I made.
Are you serious?
I made what is the chili mac with cornbread?
Oh, dude.
And my daughter told
right
her dad, and he was like, when she starts making casseroles, it's over. And I said, I was thinking of making an enchilada casserole.
Ooh, yeah.
I said, some of the food was actually pretty good, on the right nights. But yes.
We used to make those with. You'd put the beans, right? Mm-hmm. You put the rice, and a lot of them they would put some sausage in there, some cheese, white cheese, yellow cheese, and then make that layer. By the time you know it, you had this bowl, right? And then it's a layer that big, where you just sit there in the TV room and just eat it really
it was so good, though.
I know, right?
It
just
was
really
good.
And it, you know what the crazy thing? It would take you back when you were home, because prison food, man, come on, they're not going to get no salt, no sodium, no, none of that stuff. So. I mean, it was. I think if there was anything that I missed in being in prison, I don't want to go back in prison. All right, I don't want to go back there. But if there's anything that I miss, was the camaraderie of my friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you had some friends that were ride or die, man. Guys that, hey, you need anything, something. I mean, just good-hearted people in there.
A lot of my friends now I've known since we were locked up when I was 12, and then I met a few in prison, and they're friends now. And I've always said I've met the best people in prison. Since I've got out, it's like people don't have integrity. They don't understand being honest. They don't understand a lot. It's like they don't have the same values, and it's weird to say, but those have been the best friends I've ever had. They've held me accountable.
Oh my God, yeah.
And they're quick to say, you know what, Priscilla, that's that's BS. That's BS, and you know it. And it's like, you know what, you're right. But you don't find that a lot, and people out here, they don't understand that. Even now, I'm a real estate agent, and I noticed how cutthroat it is. I'm like, man, even the real estate agents don't have integrity. Y'all are supposed to be top tier,
You're in the world. You're in the free world. You're in the free world. There ain't no integrity. What integrity do you have?
I gotta move like I'm in prison too. I gotta watch everything you do.
Yeah, it's just and I was I told my wife when I came out of prison, I've been out since October last year, right, babe? Last year. And I remember telling my wife, man, there is no loyalty, no respect, no honor. I remember being in prison, and I saw a guy leave, and we all made a little party. You know how we make those little parties, a spread, and get all the guys together. About 30 of us get together outside. We made him a party to go. Within 2-3 months, he was back. It was the craziest thing. He came back, right? And I was like, dude, you were just in the free world. I would never come. No, he was. And then, his story was that no support. You come out, no support.
I know when I came home, I was ready to go back the first day. They had me on a leg monitor, and my family, I didn't know my family anymore, even though they're my family. I really didn't know them. And there was so much drama going on that I didn't know about. And I was like, man, screw this. I don't want to be here. I'd rather just go back to prison. And I remember I got to the porch, and I was like, I'm just going to tear this thing off. I was like, man, you got to be a special kind of stupid if you do that.
Yeah, and wait for them to pick you up again.
Yes.
Because you're going to end up doing your probation time and whatever's left. Yeah. So it's like, now, you really, really got to think, when I coming out, I told my wife, man, forget about support. There was no support, right? Disrespect, talk, backbiting, bickering, no respect, no honor, none of that, And I remember somebody close to me in my family says, well, you were in prison. What do you expect? You're in prison. You got there in prison, and We have nothing to do with it. You went into prison. And it was like, well, wait a minute. Before I left, I was this person. And if I'm not right, you borrowed from me, you asked from me when I was over here on this side. Now I'm on this side. I just need a little help. But when you're on this side, when you come out of prison, what's the most important? I always tell everybody, look, when you're coming out of prison, and if you have a loved one, okay, you may understand what I'm saying. So if you have a loved one that's coming out of prison, and you say, pues ya va a salir, or she's coming out, the best thing you can do for them is give them support. That's the best thing you can do, and give them some space. If this person was in their 20s when they went to prison, and they did a 10, you did what, 15? Okay, she did a 15-year bid. I only did 5. She did a 15-year bid. Do you think she came back the same? How old were you when you left?
12.
What?
I was 12 when they sentenced me to TDC. To TYC, and then on my 18th birthday, they transferred me to TDC, and I got home. I was 27, almost 28.
Holy moly! Okay, so this is a perfect example. So you went to prison when you were 12, huh? Okay, so she goes to prison. She comes out. She don't have the same family members. No. And then I always tell everybody, look, when your loved one comes out of prison, and let's just say they were in their 20s and they did a 10-year bid, 15-year bid, don't expect a puppy to come home. Don't expect that person that left to come home. No, sir. That person that comes home is a different person. He's institutionalized. They got issues, mental issues. I had a lot of bipolar. I had mental issues. I had bipolar. I had all kinds of mental issues. Anger. Anger. I couldn't hold it together. It was tough. It was rough. The only thing is that the crazy thing is that my immediate family didn't understand it. He just came out of prison. Give him some time. Let him adjust. Let's give him some time. He just came out. So they thought just coming out of prison, I was ready to go and get out. What are you doing? So it was crazy. Coming out of prison, one of my brothers showed me love. And I'll never forget that. One of my brothers showed me love, and he goes, "Hey, bro, I got you. Come work with me. Come drive for me. Here's some money. I'm going to get you going." It was just like, okay, you know what I mean? Just one person. I'm sure you had that person when you came out of prison. It's always a person you didn't expect to come help you.
Nah, it was my grandma. I knew it was going to be my grandma.
Okay.
Always my grandma.
All right.
My grandma, my tia, those are the two that always,
And the guys that come back to prison, the guys, I've seen so many try to make that transition that would come back. The guys that would come back to prison was because the reason why I'm saying this, because if you have a loved one in there, this is what you have to be aware of. One is a guy that comes out of prison, or we come out of prison, we're looking for respect. Just give us a little respect. Just look, we've done this time. Yeah, you had nothing to do with it. We did it. We made it. We made a mistake. We made the mistake. Just give us a little respect. Just give us some time. Another thing that we ask is for support. Just support. Maybe you don't understand how we are when we come out of prison, but just give us a little bit of support. Just be there. If we have questions, just be there. And another thing is that don't be so harsh on your loved ones. When they come out, and don't throw it in their face. Hey, well, you went to prison. Y'all people, y'all dudes. I've heard it. Y'all come out of prison and y'all think we owe you this or we owe you that. That's not it. It's not it. We're just trying to make it. We're just like everybody else. We're trying to make it. We're trying to fit in. We're trying to adjust. We're trying to see how we can fit in, how we can be part of the society, how we can come back and contribute to the society, into our families, into our children, into our parents, into our siblings. We're trying to adjust. Those are things that you're going to go through. And, if, like I said, you have a loved one in there, just give them some time. So, okay. So, man, you shocked me when you said 12.
I thought you knew.
No, man, you threw me off. 12. Okay. So do you want to go into what happened? Like,
yeah.
You don't have to go into.
No, I don't mind. I was just like, there's so much.
Don't go into the gory stuff. But
So I was in a gang, and we were at a party and there was a girl there who had been my friend before. There's a whole backstory to that, but she had been my friend before. She wasn't my friend anymore. She had got into a rival gang, and when I showed up at the party, I saw her there, and so I went at her like I wanted to fight with her. And the guys were like, "Wait, I thought y'all were friends," and I was like, "No," I told them what she was, and so they were like, "Well, let's give her a choice. Does she want to get jumped or does she want a train run on her?" And she was like, "Oh, I want a train run on me." I was like, "Well, whatever you choose, it doesn't matter. Afterwards, I'm still going to get you.
I'm going to beat you."
And so they did what they did. I left. I came back. People were coming out, and then we left. And no, I'm lying. People were coming out. I went in, and I got her. I jumped on her. When I jumped on her, everybody jumped in. Not everybody, but as many people as could jump in.
Your side and there's her side, right?
There was no her side there. She was just
by
there.
herself?
She shouldn't have been. She didn't think I was going to show up and tell everybody.
Right.
I didn't know she was going to be there. Right. So we jumped there and we left. And then I had it in my head. I didn't tell everybody, but I was like, I want to go back for her. We were going to a ranch because I was the youngest one there. Everybody there was between, aside from me being 12, between 15 and 35. And so the 35-year-old had a ranch, and I was like, "Can we go back?" And I was going to befriend her and take her to the ranch. And in my head, I had it that I was going to kill her, and I was going to leave her there, and nobody would find her. Nobody would know it was a ranch. So when we went back, they arrested us, and they charged us with aggravated sexual assault and aggravated robbery. And there was like maybe 20 or 30 of us that got in trouble. And then, so I went to trial, all kinds of stuff happened. They sentenced me to 15 years. They were trying to give me 40. It was all over the news. They called me evil little girl because I laughed during the trial, but I wasn't laughing at the situation. I was 12. So my mentality was that of a 12-year-old. Right. So when she tried to say that I raped her, I thought it was funny because I didn't think a girl could do that to another girl. It was like, what? That's not even possible. But they took it as I was laughing, like, at the situation. It's like, no, I really wasn't. I just didn't understand at that time that two girls could actually.
Well, the guys that raped her, they got serious time, didn't they?
Well, everybody got their charges dismissed except for 5 of us, and I never knew why. But then when I came home from prison, I went to the courthouse to get records because I was not understanding how that happened. And after the first 5 of us went to trial, she wrote a letter to the DA and said that she lied. She said that she lied and she was mad because we had beat her up and nobody helped her when she was getting beat up. So everybody else had their charges dropped. So when I found that letter, I sent it to the last 2 guys that were there that had been sentenced to 35 years. And St. Mary's Law School and the Innocence Project opened their cases and they were exonerated. So I tried to get exonerated, but all of my files, all of my court records, everything is gone because I was a juvenile. Right. So they really couldn't help me. Like now I don't have to register as a sex offender, but like the guys are going to get money for every day they were there. I don't get that because I don't have records for them to present anymore in the court system. And so there was that.
So how many years did the guys do? They
did 25, I believe. Yeah. They did 25. And one of them's doing really, really good. And the other one, it's not doing good. He came out and just automatically just went right down. And like he didn't even try. And I'm like, man, you're so lucky. You're getting all this money coming to you. You could do so much with it. And you're just like, you're an addict now. So
yeah, but it destroyed him too. A lot of people don't understand that. It's a mindset too. To be in prison, you have to have this mentality to make it. Because if not, you won't make it to prison. Your mentality is the main thing. I don't blame. He lost his son to cancer while he was in there. Oh. And when we got locked up, his son was only like 2. He was like 21 when he passed. So yeah, I don't understand it, but at the same time, it's like you had so many people. He did have a lot of support, but I guess it was just it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming, Even me now, I'm doing good, but sometimes like I still had to remind myself like you're not in prison. You're not in prison. With my kids, I had to teach myself like to show them affection because we're there. We're not allowed to get affection and everything. We're not allowed to hug each other. And so it's like I'm not used to it, but I have to remind myself like my kids need that affection. Like I'm not affectionate with anybody else, but with my kids, like I've made it a point. So there's something still like even though I've been out for years, I got it in 2007, 8, somewhere around there. I still I'm doing good, but I still have. Do you have any flashbacks?
No, No, I just have like
I got them, but
I have to like remind myself that I'm not in prison anymore sometimes. Like the way I deal with situations, um I like I
yeah,
have
I
to
mean,
remind
do you
myself.
trigger? You get mad rather?
I
You still have like anger issues?
No, I do have anger issues. It just takes longer to get me
Okay,
angry,
okay.
but it's kind of worse because now when I get angry, like I've
You'll
already
explode.
taken yes, because
Yeah,
I've already taken so much before
yeah,
you got me to that point, and
yeah.
then I
You explode.
explode.
Okay, so now, did you have any kids? Oh no, you were 12 years old. So now coming out, what do your kids say about you being in prison?
Mm,
I'm sure they can't believe it either.
my I have the 6 year old and the 8 year old. They don't really know yet, but my 15 year old, she knows like everything. But it's kind of made her closer to me because she could talk to me about things. And most parents are like, "Oh, don't do this, don't do that." Well, you forget I was 15 too. I was 15, I was 12, I was doing all of this stuff. I understand. I'm not gonna. It's just I have to explain to them the way somebody should have explained it to me at that time. But at the same time, keep that boundary that I'm a parent.
I laugh because I remember my father. I remember my father would he would get after me, right? And then my mom would be like, "Hey, you forgot when you were a kid, when you were 12, when you were 15, 13 years old, you were worse. Don't you remember you were worse than me?" My dad, yeah, hombre, no seas acahueta, don't get involved. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's funny, dude. So you're able to talk. So how many kids you got right now?
Three.
Three? So they've never held it against you or anything?
No,
No?
not at all. Not at all. My daughter is it. I guess it's helped our relationship.
You don't get them like, Mom, what was it like in prison?
My daughter does ask me.
She does?
She asked me. My little ones don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure that they will. But no, nobody has held it against me. Not for my kids. My daughter just asks a lot of questions. Like, well, what happened here and there? Like, from when I was a kid. Or
So-
like if she has friends that are going through stuff, she's like, "Mom, can you just like talk to them or talk to the parents because you understand?" And I'm like, "Okay, okay, Jasmine." So it hasn't been bad on our
If you had to do it again, what would you do different?
Um,
I mean, I always tell everybody that going to prison was one of the best things for me.
I say the same thing. Like
Do you say that too?
sometimes when I think about it, I get angry. I'm like, man, I did all my life was wasted there for something that I didn't. That I mean, I should have got in trouble anyway, but not like that. It's like I should have told the truth. I still would have got in trouble, but I wouldn't have had to register as a sex offender and go through all of that. I wouldn't have spent 15 years there. I wouldn't have been harassed by the gang unit for many years when I came home. All of that wouldn't have happened. But at the same time, I don't think I would be alive, or I'd probably have 15 kids, and like I wouldn't be anywhere near what I am now. So it's just like, well, I really, really, when I say things happen the way they're supposed to, you might not like it, you might not understand it, but it's true. Everything
I think
in its time.
I think a lot of things that we go through, we don't understand.
Mm-mm.
I remember going to prison. I knew there was a purpose.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I knew, okay. So, I said to myself, okay, back in the 90s, I used to run with these people. I never got in trouble. And all of a sudden, I get in trouble for this thing. I was like, God, I'm serving you. And I get in trouble for this thing. And it's not even the life that I used to live back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
I had a completely different life. And I was like, okay, so if you didn't put me away then, why am I, and I was already serving the Lord. It was an old case that came and caught up to me. And I realized early on, that, hey, there's a purpose here. And this is something where I'm either going to get stronger, I'm going to get weaker, it's going to make me, or it's going to break me. The thing is, a prison has a way of breaking you. I mean, their system is to shackle you. How many times you've been shackled from, your wrist all the way to your ankles? You're not going to go anywhere. It's not like you're going to run or escape or anything, and then they parade you back and forth. And you know what I mean? It's a mental thing. They try to break you, humiliate you, so I think that was one of the biggest things, being in prison. But I do think it was one of the best things that happened to me. Being in there, I was able to put a plan. And I knew that one day I was going to come home. I said, hey, I'm going to do this time, but those doors are going to open. I'm going to walk right through. I already knew. Every day I would walk by and I would say, those doors are going to open. Those doors, I'm going to walk right through those doors. I would tell my friends, those doors ain't going to hold me. When it's my time, I'm going to walk through them. And I think that having that mentality, not to be broken and to make it and to be strong. And what I see that you were 12, so you were able to process at 12 years old, and like you're being a little girl into a teenager, into an adult. You were in prison, right? So you went to like what's the prison for the kids? Juvie.
TYC. I
And
went to juvenile, TYC, then to TDC. And I think maybe TYC was what saved me and prepared me for TDC. Because back then, the juvenile system, we had groups, we had house parents, and we had it was kind of like being at home, except you had structure, you had rules, and the house parents were actually like mothers to us. They taught us about, how you say there, we had to do our life story. We did our offense cycle. We compared them to each other. We found what our triggers were, and we compared all of that. And then they taught us love. They taught us how to respect ourselves, how to care, just like a mother should do. We had like 5 mothers, but that prepared me for when I went to TDC, and I noticed a difference in a lot of girls my age. Because I got there, I don't think I was quite 18 yet. It was totally different. They were very
aggressive
and loud and disrespectful and just rude. And it's like, man, they gave us college for free, and y'all are not going to go to college. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to vocation. I took everything I possibly could because it was free. And none of them were taking advantage of that. And you could tell the difference. Like, I wasn't going to be rude to a guard because they were a guard. They have a job too. There's guards that really, they did their job. They were strict, but they did their job, and you knew this is what it was. They weren't unfair. Then you had the ones that were total jerks, but it was just it was a culture shock to me.
Yeah. So the cool thing about here was that I see what you're saying is that you were able to be prepared and groomed to go to the prison, right? Now you think of women that get in trouble in 20s, late 20s, 30s, whatever. They go to prison. Their lifestyle is going to be the same lifestyle when they're in prison. If they didn't have hygiene, if they didn't care for themselves, I mean, I've seen that. I was in prison. I saw that. I was like, man, one thing my dad would tell me when he would come see me, hey, don't let yourself go. And my dad would tell me, just because you're in prison doesn't mean you're not going to comb your hair and brush your teeth. Take a shower and take care of yourself. No te dejes ir. Don't let yourself go. And it was always about being clean, sanitary. Don't get sick in here. Don't get sick in here. You get sick in here, you're not going to make it home. That was one of the biggest things he would tell me, because he'd been in prison. He had been in the feds and on the state. I think he did a 10-year bid on the state and maybe like 8 years on the feds or something. But he was like, look, the main thing is, you gotta keep your hygiene up, be clean, to make it home and don't get sick. I remember he would, I remember Dad telling me, look, every course or every class that comes up, take it. Even if he would tell me, even if it's parenting, 1, 2, 3, if it's anger management, any course that they put on the board. Because my father went to the Fed, so he already knew. He goes, you got to program everything that's there. Take it, and this way you'll have all the certificates. When you come up for parole, they're going to see that you went through all these classes. So that helped me too. I had all this credit. By the time they really looked into my name, I had a lot of credit. I had got my degree there, went to college, and all that stuff. So where do you see yourself now?
What do you mean, like?
Okay, so right now, what are you doing? So I heard you were a real estate broker, right? So what was the process of going there? Because did you have to say that you had been convicted of a felony?
I did. I had to sign. I had to turn in a paper. It's called a. I can't remember the name of it. I had to turn in a paper to the board in Austin for them to look at it, and I had to get like reference letters of people, like volunteer work I've did and everything, like character references.
Okay.
And so I turned all that in, but I mean, even though I told them that, they weren't able to see that because, like I said, my record's not. You can't see my record anymore. So I was able to get in, and so I was excited because I didn't think they were going to let me. So I've been an agent for almost a year.
And you're serving the Lord too.
Well, in my way.
In your way?
In my way, because I'm not like people say I'm Christian, I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
No, but I pray all the time, and it's like the week before this, I was like, God, because my real estate, it was going so slow, And my husband was like, don't worry, you got it. I know how you are. You got it. You're going to be fine. Just give it time. Just keep going. And I was like, okay. So then like from December, the end of December to the very 1st of January, it took off. It took off like crazy. And everybody's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, my grandma prayed for me. Like, that's all I can say is my grandma prayed. And I was like, you know what, God, thank you so much, because like 3 years ago, just 3 years ago, things were like, my dad had cancer. He passed away. My husband left me. He became an addict. He was gone. It was so much. And I was like, and now like he's home, where our family's getting back together, and it's like everything's happening. Everything has come full circle. And like, I can only thank you because, like, I don't know why he has favored me in many situations, and not like, where you can question it. It's been like loud, and it's like, so however you need to use me, like use me. So then like that week, my cousin asked me to come over here to the church. And then she asked me if I do your podcast. And then a friend of mine called me to talk to his daughter because she had got in trouble at school. And I'm like, well, I guess this is your way of using me. So let me just do wherever you're pushing me to.
Think about it. I mean, your testimony is what you went through.
Yeah.
I mean, you're able to help these little girls, before they become teenagers and before they become these little ladies and they become women. You're able to be there. Have you thought about going back into prison to help?
I've gone into the juveniles a few times. As I have friends that specifically are for like the juvenile system. So I've gone in a few times and talked to, went back to Giddings, and we all talked to the kids. And then that's pretty much it. I've gone into a few of the juveniles. I had talked to a cop here in the gang unit to go into the schools and stuff, but then he was supposed to set something up, but it's like, well,
where do you feel your passion though?
Well, mostly with kids.
With kids, wow.
Yes, they've asked me to do the whole prison reform thing, and I'm like, no, I don't really have a lot of interest in that. We're not in a country club. The food is not full of worms and mold. Okay, you work on the whole squad. That's our food, really. That we're working for. Yeah. There's no AC. I made it fine with no AC. You learn how to cool off. Those are things y'all are complaining about, but we're not there to enjoy ourselves. We're not there to enjoy ourselves. We're there. We did something. We need to, got the consequences.
You're getting correction, getting discipline, and it should be an experience that you don't want to go back. It has to be an experience where, man, I don't want to go back to prison. I'm not going to do anything to go back to prison. That's why.
But with the juvenile system now, we went back. A lot of us went back. There's a lot of us that were there from the time we were 12 to barely getting out now. And we've all gone back, and it's not the same as it was before. And that was very sad to me, because that was what saved a lot of us, is that we got love. We received love there, and now they're not, the staff can't even touch them. So imagine being a kid somewhere for 5 years and you cannot be touched at all. And they don't have like the level systems before where you earned and you were rewarded. You're just there, and you'll be released when you're 18. So you don't have to try to do good. You don't have to try to do anything. You're still going to be released when you're 18. But what is that teaching them? And that's, to me, that was sad.
So they're not preparing them for TDC?
Not like when we were there.
So you were blessed.
I was very, very blessed. That's the only thing I think that saved a lot of us, because a lot of us have come out, and we've done very well. We've done okay. We haven't fell. We haven't gone back. Very few of us have gone back to it, but for the most part, we've all done pretty well. I
personally think that prison has helped some people, and it's helped a lot of people. Guys that I've talked to are like, dude, I was a heroin addict, or I was a crack addict, or I was on ice. I was smoking ice. If it wasn't for this, coming to prison, I wouldn't have changed. So it's helped. And then they go to school. You go to school. So all right. So Sophie, do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions out there they can ask? Who I see? Is that Rachel Rios?
Rachel Rios.
I see that she went to prison herself.
Yeah, she said she had 2 years, going to go 2 years in state jail, and she said, with me, I just mixed up with the wrong one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it happens that way. When you're young, and it goes for the guys too. You hang around with the wrong crowd and the wrong people. You hang around with the wrong people and just having fun. You think it's fun. It's fun until you get arrested, and then you get a charge, and you end up going to prison. So yeah, I can see that. Rachel, that you hang around with the wrong person, the wrong crowd, and you get in trouble.
I said, I think God for my family support, I was one of the lucky ones.
Again, you see that post there. You have to look at that support is the most important thing. When you come out, support, support, support. If you don't have that support, you had your grandma, right? What about other family members? Did you have any other family members to give you support?
Just my tia, my grandma.
You
Same
had,
people
you
as
had a
always.
tia Maria too? Yeah, everybody has it. Everybody has a tia Maria. Yeah, so yeah, I have. Wow, that's good because I always tell everybody that when we come out, I mean, I speak for myself. I came out with a lot of issues, and this podcast wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have gone through what I went through, which is the support coming out, no support, and it was tough, and then having all these issues, bipolar issues, and for a while I really thought I had mental issues. Because my own family said, dude, you got mental issues, bro. You got to put yourself in check. You're going to hurt somebody. You're going to hurt your family. You're going to hurt somebody, bro. You just explode. And the thing is that we have it. It's bottled up in us. We have this anger that's way deep. One thing is I lost my dad in prison. So I guess I blame myself that, I was the oldest son. I should have been out. I should have been taken care of. I mean, my wife did a wonderful job. She took care of my dad, and he was getting Alzheimer's, and he had Parkinson's, and she looked after him. But I felt like it was my job,
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to say goodbye to him. I talked to him on the phone before he passed, but I really didn't get the chance to take care of him like I would have loved to take care of my own father, So it was tough, And, we come home with all these issues, and people just think that, get over it, dude. You know what I mean? Get over it. Get on with your life. Priscilla, yeah, you went to prison for 15 years. Okay, you're out now. What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
And it's like, hold on, bro. It's not that easy. I mean, there's a process for us. Getting out. Did you have that NA? Did you have to report? Do all these classes and all these?
I had to report, and they made me go to like sex offender classes, and I was in there with real sex offenders.
The real
and
thing.
I had to hear some of the stuff, and it was like, why do I have to be in here? And he's like, you have an anger issue. He said, we can work on that while you're here. He's like, I can't really work with you on a sex offense. He said, but you do have some anger issues. And I do. I've just gotten older and learned how to.
So do you think you have like anger issues with bipolar?
I think it's just that I'm used to having to react that way. In prison, like you have to.
Well,
react
you're always
in
on
some
a
way.
defense.
Yeah,
you're
so
always on a
the
defense.
same,
yeah.
And it's like now, like that, I'm a real estate agent. It's like I told myself I have to learn to react differently because they don't know my background.
You're a classy lady now.
But I have to try to be. Sometimes it's hard.
You know what I mean? You're a different person, right? You're a different
I'm
person.
very different.
And she's wearing a different hat. It's different than just being a construction worker where you can just have a sailor mouth.
Now, like I say, I have to get a little bit suburbanish with you.
There you go.
I'm going to go ahead and do that for right now. But that's not the way I want to say it.
That's not where I want to go. But we're gonna get
But like my daughter, like her thing, the one thing she did question me about, she's like, you never show any emotion, Mom. And I was like, no, I don't. But it's not because I don't love y'all. I'm not. To me, it's not about emotion. It's like, okay, this happened. Now, what are we gonna do? Like I don't have time to sit and cry and be mad and do this and do that.
No process.
Yes,
no
it's like,
process.
let's just do this. And I had to explain that to her. And I guess that is a habit I still have because in there you can't really, can't show
when
a
you're
lot
in
of
prison,
emotion.
you're not going to be crying. The only time that I think the only time I really cried in prison, over the 5 years that I was there, when my father passed away. I mean, I couldn't cry in front of people, and I was on the phone. I was like, somebody was choking me on the phone because my father was passing away. I was talking to him, and it was so hard to talk to him, tell him, Dad, I love you. Thank you for all the sacrifices. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for being there. Thank you for your support. It was just giving him the gratitude, telling him everything that he meant to me. And then while all along having somebody choke you in the throat while you're trying to get it out and your emotions, and there's people passing by. And I just remember being out in they let you out for an hour because they had us on lockdown, right? Like being on seg. I just remember being outside talking to God and hey, I know there's nothing I can do. One thing about being in prison is that you can go from here to there real quick, emotion-wise, where you can just say, well, I can't do nothing about it. What can I do? I'm in prison. This is why, this is why a lot of guys or a lot of women, when they're in prison, something happens out there to them, they'll end their life. They'll either hang themselves, cut themselves. I don't know if you went through that or heard of that.
I've seen it. But
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
never
I've
do it.
seen but I've seen it where they hurt themselves. They'll hang themselves. They'll cut themselves, and
It's too much for them.
it's too much for them. And this is the main thing. If you can control this, if you can get a good grip of your mind. The thing is, a lot of guys don't see tomorrow. They can't see that God has something for them. They can't see that God's going to use that as a testimony. They can't see that God has something for them when they come home. They can't see that God's going to restore. They can't see that God's going to renew them. They just can't see the things that God's going to do when they get out. So all they're thinking is right there in that little box, in that cubby that you're in, and and it's hard. It's hard to do time. It's really hard to do time, especially when you do it in SAG, or if you're doing it, just being on lockdown. It's very hard, very hard.
And then I spent most of my time locked up questioning that there was a God. Almost the entire time until maybe a year before I got released.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was in college and I was reading the Torah, the Bible, the Quran. And I was like, man, none of this makes sense to me. I read everything. I wasn't I wasn't become Muslim, but I was reading everything. And I was like, man, this doesn't make sense to me.
I've seen people, read the Quran and all these. There's a Chinese book.
It's the...
What is it? I saw guys read it.
I remember. I
it's
read
translated in English, but these guys read the book.
I read it all. Really? But it until my grandpa died while I was there, and I was still questioning God, and it was like okay, when in the Bible when they talk about when Jesus was crucified, right? So when I read it, I was like, man, this is a lie, because all of their stories are different. It's a lie. So that's what made me start reading the other books, and I was like, well, these are a lie. But then that was then. And so I was like, yeah, no. Well, then when my grandpa passed away, it was like that. He was like my father. I wasn't able to say bye. It was like 2 days before Christmas. So I took it real hard, and I was like, you know what, God, if you're even there, if you're real, let me know that he's okay. Let me know that life doesn't end here.
Did you get a dream?
And no, I'm gonna tell you. So, and I didn't tell nobody. I prayed this at night by myself, because I couldn't cry in the day. And it's like, if you're really there, just let me know that he's okay. And life doesn't end here, because my grandpa to me was like larger than life. So it's like, it can't just end here. It can't just be it. So the next day on Christmas Eve, I went outside and I was walking, and I wasn't crying. I was talking to a friend, and some old lady I've never seen called me to her. And me and my friend, she was like, one of y'all lose like a father or uncle or something recently? Nope. And I walked off, and my friend was like, that was weird, but why did you say no? And I said, because I don't know her. Why is she asking me that? And she's like, well, she's asking you that, so maybe when we go back around, ask her what she wanted. So I remembered my prayer, and I was like, So I told her it was me. And she goes, I couldn't tell, but when you walked up, even though you weren't crying and you looked okay, I could feel the sadness. And she goes, it's really cold out here. I never come outside. I'm too old. And she had to have been like 80 years old.
Wow.
And she says, but I came out here to pray and, to give thanks to God, tell him happy birthday. And she says, but when you walked by, something came to me to tell you, and it was so strong, I just had to tell you. And I was like, okay, well, what is it? I'm like, okay, what? And she says, he loves you very much, and life doesn't just end here. And it was like the exact thing that I had prayed for. So I was like, I may not be a Christian or this or that, but you cannot, from then on, you couldn't make my faith waver in God, because that was so loud and blatant. I couldn't question it. And there's always things like that happening to me. And I'm like, okay, what is it that you need me to do? Obviously, there's something I need to do for you, but it hasn't quite come yet, but it will eventually. But no, I'm not like everybody. We're like, oh my God, no. But I have that faith in me, probably stronger than some people who go to church, because there's so many things.
Once you get into the Word, you're going to know what you're called to do. Because the God will start tugging, the Holy Spirit starts tugging on you, and he'll tell you exactly where you need to be. And the crazy thing is, that's when you're the most happy. This is the internet. There it is.
So after that, I reread the Bible and the Quran and the Torah, and I said, it wasn't a lie. They were each telling the story from their own perceptions.
There you go.
But it took me to have to go back and see it with different eyes, because before it was just doubt. It was like, no, it has to be a lie. But no.
The thing is that being in prison or not being in prison, God's going to use people, places, and situations to talk to us. You don't have to go to prison for God to talk to you. You know, if you're living a life that's not where he wants you to be, and he has something for you, and he's put a calling in you, you can't run. You can run all you want, you can hide all you want and pretend with your friends that you're living a life. But that lonely, quiet time that you come to yourself, that you're by yourself, that lonely time, that's when you're going to be able to, God's going to be able, the Holy Spirit's going to be able to convict you, and you're going to feel his presence, Like, God uses people, places, situations to get our attention. Any more questions, babe?
Let's see. It's so important that we have the fruit of patience when our loved ones come out.
Oh, who's this? Sherry?
Christy,
Oh, Christy.
She says it's so important that we have the fruit of patience with our loved ones when they come out.
Yeah, and that's true. Coming out, I mean, I'm sure with you too, but coming out, man, I was like, it was crazy because I left this, when I left, I was in the oil field and I had 50 trucks and I was doing good and I was out there going to prison, coming back and like with no money, no place to live. And I only had a house because my father had gave it to me. That's the only reason why we had a house. But, it was the craziest thing how God provided. The thing is God will provide. God will see you through. No matter what you're going through, you give your life to Christ and you decide to walk his walk, he's not going to let you down. I remember my dad used to say, man, it's impossible for you to serve the Lord, and it's impossible for you to serve the Lord 100% with your heart, wholeheartedly, and for God to come out short. He's going to see you through with your kids, your family, your business, your everyday walk. He's going to see you through. There's no way that you can serve God wholeheartedly and God's not going to be there for you. So I grew up knowing that, and I was like, God, I have nothing. I have nothing. All I have is myself, my heart, whatever you want, I'm here. You just take it. You take my life any way you want, I'm here. So like I said, prison was good for me because when I left, even though I was raised in church, right, with my dad was a minister, I didn't want nothing to do because I was making a lot of money in the oil field and I had trucks and businesses, and I was like, hey, I'm cool. As long as my brothers are pastors, right? As long as they're pastoring, I'm cool, But no, God said, hey, it's time, Chiquito, it's your time. So that's why, anytime, God separates you and puts you in prison, the main thing is to educate yourself, get a plan when you're coming out. Did you write a plan when you came out? You did? What was it? Was it a 5-year or 10-year?
I fixed it for a 2-year.
2-year, okay.
I did it
all right.
small.
Really? What was it? What was it like? What was it?
I knew I was going to come out and go to finish college.
All right.
I came out and I did college. I knew I was going to work and I wanted to own my own home. But that didn't happen till later. And back then, I thought I was going to marry my daughter's father. So that was my 2-year plan, was to get out, finish school, work, save for a house, and get married. But none of it happened that way. School happened, and then that was it.
When you're in prison, it's important to have a plan when you come out. You gotta have a plan. I knew of my plan years before I came out. I had this talent that God had gave me, this gift, in the stock market, right? Reading stocks, and this is back in 99, 2000. And I knew as soon as I already had a vision. I saw it. I played it out. I said, this is what I'm going to do when I get out. I'm going to serve the Lord with my family, but this is what I want to do for a living. But, you got to write that plan down so that way when you're getting closer and closer to your plan. Any other questions, Beck?
So you have Adeline Restoration says, I was at TYC when I was 10.
Oh, man.
And TDC at 16. Awesome testimony.
Man, I'd like to have them on the podcast. They'd like to be a part of the podcast.
I'll reach out to him.
So he did. How many years he did?
He didn't say how many years. He says he went to TYC at 10 and then TDC at 16.
Man, dude. Just think about, look what you went through. And then you're a survivor. Look what you've gone through. Now you're a real estate broker. And I'm just amazed at how people, if you really want to make it, you put your mind to make it, you're going to make it. How is it that people come to our country and they make it? It's right here. They have a purpose and they know what they're going to do when they get here. They have a purpose. How can we not have a purpose when we get out of prison to make it, to be something, to become something?
I refuse to be a statistic. You
There
know,
you go.
everybody expected it.
That
me
was
to come
that was
out.
part of your class. That was part of her class.
I
'Cause
refuse.
I took that class too.
Even in there, I remember a guard one time we were going at it, and she was like, "Well, who the H do you think you are?" And I'm like, I looked at her like, "Am I supposed to say nobody? Am I supposed to say like an inmate?" And I was like, "No, Priscilla Ambris. That's who I am. Who are you?" You know. And it's like from that point, I was like, "No." I felt like I was there to be broken, and I was like, "No, they can't break me." Like I see some of the women that they just,
They're
couldn't
broken.
deal with it. They're broken.
They're
I was like,
broken.
"Yeah, that can't be me."
And they're
'cause
with their heads down, they're crying, they're
Yeah.
depressed, they're missing their loved ones, they're missing home, they're missing their kids.
I couldn't do it.
Now you were one of the blessed ones that was able to. The problem is that when you're in there, you can't see on the other side of the fence, right? You can't see. I mean, it's just so hard. I remember I used to tell my wife that I had a little headset, a little radio, and I would tell the guys, "Hey guys, I'm getting ready to lay down. I'm gonna get on my my spaceship." And that was my spaceship. When I would put that radio on, I was gone, man. I was at home. I was there with my dad. I was with my kids and my
Especially when
wife.
they play like Tejano music. The
Oh,
music would blow in
crazy.
sometimes, and you can hear Tejano. I was like, man, I just want to be home.
Right? Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Yep.
It's
Those little memories, right?
Yeah.
Being in there.
When I got my real estate license, my girl was like, "Are you gonna go get a better house out of this side of town?" And I'm like, "No," because when I was in prison, these are the things I missed. I missed being able to sit outside. There's a million kids on my block for my kids to play with. Everybody knows everybody. You could smell the menudo, and you could the tamales. You could hear the grandmas yelling, the music, the oldies, Tejano, the banda here. And it's like, to me, that's home.
That's home.
No suburbs or anything. I'm okay right here.
What do we got here? Sandy?
Sandy's aunt. Priscilla is my cousin.
Okay.
I praise God for the favor and mercy in her life. I just got out after 5 years. I'm grateful for my incarceration. God has completely transformed me. To Him be the glory. Cousin, I'm so proud of you.
You know who that is?
I hadn't seen her since we were kids, but I remember her.
You know who she is? That's funny, Mija, how God uses people, places, and situations. And a lot of times being, like Joseph, being in that pit, being in that prison is sometimes the best thing for us, because when we come out, we become better people when we come out. Who's the next one?
Rachel Reyes is OMG. Praise the Lord. Okay, our last comment is from John Suarez. This is John from New Braunfels.
Yeah, John from New Braunfels. I was just going to say that, John from New Braunfels.
So John says, any tips on sharing with my brother? He's 53 years old and has been in prison over half of his life.
Oh, man.
He's struggling mentally.
Okay, so is he out, mijo? Is he out, or he's still in prison?
I remember him saying he's still in prison. He hasn't been released yet.
Okay, so we need to hook him up with Israel. Okay, so if you can, if you want to private message me or Sophia, send us his information. We have somebody that we send letters to. We send letters out, and we correspond with these guys. We got a guy that his calling, what he does is contact these guys and corresponds with them, sends them preachings, talk to them, books, whatever they need. He corresponds. And also, I need to know when he's coming out, when his parole date, so that way we can, maybe we can get him part of our group. Look, if you're hearing this or the playback, or you forward this to somebody, if you know anybody that's struggling with drugs, addiction, if you know anybody that went to prison, that's struggling, even though they came out, and just forward this video to them. Every Thursdays here at our address. You got our address? I'm sorry, guys. 2324 Palo Alto Road. 2423 Palo Alto Road. We have Bible studies. Our group here is people that, man, can I say the word broken? I can?
No.
I mean, we're not broken anymore, but the society and people has told us that we're broken and we're no good, we're trash, we're no good, we'll never amount to anything, we'll never do anything, we'll never be anybody. That's society. That's the enemy telling us that. But we know better. We know better. Amen? So this group that we get together on Thursdays is guys have been in prison. They've had women that've been in prison. It's just, have you been to one of our studies?
I was here.
Oh, you were here. Okay, you were here. Okay. So it's just a study. We get together, small study, but we don't do Facebook Live on it because sometimes they talk a little bit of their private stuff, and we just don't want it out there. So, and like I said, we have a setting of a round setting. It's almost like it's not a therapy group, but it's like a little group, kind of, And it's a Bible study, and everybody gets to share in the Bible study. This week we're having birthdays, right?
Birthdays.
Make sure you come. Yeah, it's birthdays. Whoever's birthday is this month in March. Yours, yeah, my wife's birthday. She has to remind me all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know whose birthday it is this month? Do you know whose birthday it is?
Somebody help me.
Who else do we got there?
That's all you're coming to.
Well, you have a beautiful testimony. Beautiful testimony. I think you need to cultivate that. I think that find something that you're going to love to do. I mean, if it's help other people, I know prison prepared me to do what I do now. I mean, if I hadn't gone to prison, I wouldn't have. I think if I hadn't gone to prison, I wouldn't have woken up. I would have been in La La Land, the oil field, trucks, and I would have been completely disconnected from God. If it wasn't for prison to bring me back over here to serving God and then helping other people, because now I help. Our Bible studies to help. When the guys are in prison, we want to write to them. We want to go back and preach in there. Go back in there and give them studies and preach and let them know that there's another way, man. There's another way of life, not just being in prison. There's a lot more to life than being in prison. When you come out, God has something else for you. God's going to restore you. God's going to pick you up. God's a God of restoration, man. No matter how bad you've had it, God's going to pick you up. Amen.
So,
man, that hour went fast. You talk a lot. that went fast. That was an hour. That was an hour. Oh my God, that was quick. All right. So, like I said, if there's anything that we can do for y'all, if you know anybody that's struggling, please let us know. Please let us know.
Message, send us the information. We do have someone in-house here at our house that writes to inmates, corresponds with them, gets resources, locates resources inside the prison and outside the prison. If they're looking to hook up with a Christian prison group, we can try to help them find one wherever they are. So make sure that you get us their information. If you would just like us to correspond with them, send them letters, make sure that you get us their information. You can always DM it to Pastor Sunny or to myself, or if you are on the Our House Ministry page, you can also send it to us there.
Okay, guys, thank you for being on. And like I said, man, if you know anybody struggling with drug addiction, just let us know. Don't be shy to let us know. We want to be there. And we have a men's home. If we can help you with a men's home, gladly pick you up and take you to the men's home. Okay?
So we're just going to run through for the week everything that we have going on. Quick reminders. We have, let me get this off. Okay, here we go. Coffee with Sunny and Sophia every morning at 8 a.m. If you are on here on the Our House Facebook page or on Pastor Sunny's page, just tune in at 8 a.m. every morning and we do a daily devotion. This week we do have our birthday celebration. It's here at Our House Ministries. It's an in-person gathering at 7 p.m. We're located at 2423 Palo Alto Road. It is a potluck gathering, right?
Yeah, anything that you want to bring, sodas, water, whatever you want. Whatever you want to bring.
And then this Friday we're doing.
This is gonna be pretty cool.
Yes.
This is our first time we do anything for teens. We've never done anything for teenagers, and we got teens ourselves. So this is why we're excited to finally get to do a movie for them, and it's going to be Christian, and everyone that's coming in, they're Christian kids. So you got teenagers, right? All right. So
hang out, get to know each other. They'll have a short study with Pastor Israel. They'll have some pizza, popcorn, drinks, movie, and just to hang out, get to know each other.
we want to get them, like, I think our goal is to get them off not so much off the street, but get them in a place where they can feel comfortable on Friday. Because a lot of times kids, they get restless on Fridays. They're not doing anything.
Yeah.
If we can bring them in some place where we can have some Christian rap for them, have music for them, and where they can eat pizza and hang out, get to know people, that's what we want to do, and that's how we can share the word. Even if it's a 10-minute, 15-minute word, the rest of the night is theirs. I think it's from 7 to 10?
Yeah, from about 7 to 10.
Yeah.
So, final thing is Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, we have our 2 p.m. service here at Our House Ministry.
So this is Sunday at 2 o'clock, guys. So we decided to do service at 2 o'clock so that way we can let you sleep late. Let you sleep in.
And by you, he means me.
Yeah, and you know what? It feels good to sleep in. 'Cause we used to get up at 7:30, 8 o'clock. Now it's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, the 2 o'clock service.
Okay.
All right, guys. Love you guys.
God bless you
Forward
guys.
it. If you have any comments, please, we'll go back and check the comments. And like I said, if you want a private message, Sophia or myself, if you have a loved one, I would love to correspond with them. Okay. And another thing, guys, before we hang up or before we get off the air here, if you have a loved one in prison, man, I always say this, but show them kindness, man. Just even if it's a cousin or a far cousin, somebody's in prison, send them $20, $25. You'd be surprised, man, when somebody puts money on your books and you're in prison and you look that you're able to afford commissary. You're like, what? You just don't forget those people. Yeah. I've had friends that, they put money and I'm like, who's Garcia? Who's Rodriguez? Who's it? And then my wife says, hey, so-and-so Maldonado put some money on your books. And they're like, what? You just don't forget those things. You just don't forget them. And if you have a loved one, man, show them love. Send them a card. The hardest time, I think, through doing time is the holidays. Did you struggle on the holidays?
Mm-hmm.
Man, in the holidays, dude, when October would hit, man, I would dread December and January. I was like, oh my God. We're going to have to go through it because I knew you're not going to be with your loved ones through Thanksgiving. Once Halloween hit, Thanksgiving, you aren't going to be with your family on Thanksgiving, eating turkey and being there and enjoying the music and being with the family, eating turkey or fried turkey. I like fried turkey. And then, then December rolls around. Man, all the holidays. And then the crazy thing is that everything in the day room, commercials, all about Christmas and family, shopping, buying things for the wife and the kids. And you're like, oh, dude. And then all the music
more quiet.
Yeah, it's more quiet, right? And then everything on the radio is Christian. Christmas music. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. So the holidays are the hardest. And I would always tell myself, man, if I could just make it through January. If I make it through January to February, man, it's over. I got it. And so mentally I had to, stop thinking about the house, what's going on, who's Christmas, and, the kids. And when I left, my kids were small. So it was like, man, you just got to clear your head and not picture. And I try not to picture myself because I didn't want to get depressed or feel bad that I'm not there. So you just don't think about Christmas. I don't know about you. I just didn't think about Christmas. Christmas in there was just another day, But you do, even if as tough as you think you are, you're going to feel it. There's a loneliness, some sadness about not being home for Thanksgiving, not being home at Christmas. There's just a heaviness. There you go, right? They're like, man, I'm missing something here. Something's I'm missing. Yeah, you're missing that friendship. You're missing that family. So, like I said, if you have a loved one in prison, write them a letter. Hey, primo. Hey, cuz, I'm thinking about you, man. I'm just thinking about you. Just want to say hello. Even if it's a small card, just something small, man, you'd be surprised when you get a card in there and you're, Christmas card or a birthday card. Or, man, dude, it's just, or send some pictures, put some money on their books, even if it's $20, so that way they can get commissary. I guarantee you they'll never forget. I don't forget the people that took care of me when I was in prison, even though it wasn't a monthly thing or weekly thing. But when I came out, I had some friends that, hey, I went to look for them, knocked on the doors. I said, hey, man, I just want to thank you for showing me kindness when I was in prison while you put some money on my books. I really thank you for that act of kindness. So anyway, any other questions? We're good?
That's it.
Well, Priscilla, we made it. We made it through there. All right, guys. So anything that you would like to say, Priscilla, before you?
No, just thank you for having me. If you do go into, the prisons or the schools and you need somebody to go, I wouldn't mind at all.
Really?
No.
You heard it live. We got you live right here, boy. I'm gonna. All right, guys. Thank you, guys. Love you guys. Thank you.